Jody here, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here on my channel, I talk about broadly books and television. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving a spoiler for your review on the latest book that I've read. So as per usual, I go over certain things in my spoiler for reviews like I always do, such as what the book is about, if I've read from this author before or not, my thoughts on the book, my star rating, my recommendation, as well as on occasion letting you know if the book I'm reviewing has been or is going to be adapted. So without any further ado, let's get on to today's spoiler free book review, and that would be for the book The Quiet Tenant by Clemence Michallon. So The Quiet Tenant is about a woman whose name we do not know, who for the last 5 years has been living in a shed being held against her will by Aiden Thomas, the man who took her. Then one day Aiden tells the woman that he will be moving and that he will be taking her with him to his new place. But how would this work exactly with Aiden having a daughter who lives with him who knows nothing about the woman he's kept in prison? That's when Aiden tells the woman that he will be telling his daughter that she will be a new roommate of theirs, someone who needed a place to live, and will be renting out a room in their house. But other than that, the woman's day-to-day life in the house will remain exactly the same as it has in the shed for the last 5 years. After living in the house for some time and being around Aiden's daughter, something inside the woman awakens. A courage and a strength reunites within her that she thought she had all but lost, and she starts to think that maybe she could possibly get herself out of the situation. Day, the woman thinks of ways to plot her escape, but she has to be careful because Aiden has eyes everywhere. Even though she's terrified to take this risk, it's a risk that she knows she has to take. Not only is this the first book by Clemence Michallon that I've read, but The Quiet Tenant is also this author's debut novel as well. As far as the next book by this author that I would want to read, it would be their second book, Our Last Resort, which came out this past summer. So now for my thoughts on the book. This was an extremely heavy and emotional book to read. That being said, it was also one of the best books that I've ever read. So now I'll talk about the book and the things within it that stood out to me that made it such an incredible read. For one, I really liked the writing and the way in which the story was told. The author did a really good job of putting you into the minds of the characters who are telling the story, letting you know and understand everything that they were thinking, feeling, had been through, and were currently going through. Like I previously said, this is by far the most heavy and emotional, as well as the most intense and heartbreaking book that I've ever read up to this point in time. And I thought the author did a really good job of capturing that heartbreaking feel of the story within the writing so incredibly well, making this a story that you couldn't read and not be emotionally touched by in some kind of way after reading it. 2, it's not every day that you read a book that has long-lasting memorable characters in it that stay with you long after reading the book. The Quiet Tenant, though, is definitely one of those books. The story is told from 3 perspectives. 1, the woman in prison whose name we do not know. 2, Emily, a woman in town who has caught the attention of Aiden. And 3, Aiden's daughter Cecilia. For most of the story, Aiden is very much the one in charge, the one who gets the final say in things. But instead of hearing from Aiden's perspective throughout the story, we hear from those around him. Men in prison whose name we do not know, Emily and Cecilia, who are all connected in some kind of way to each other because of their connection to Aiden. We get to learn about who these characters are, not from Aiden, but from them themselves, hearing in their own words, not his, who they are, who they were, their thoughts, their feelings, and their experiences. By telling the story not from Aiden's perspective, but from those around him who he tried to silence or deceive, I thought had so much more of an impact when reading the book. Lastly, this is a story that I will never forget reading. The story in this book is one that both terrifies you and breaks your heart as you're reading it. Aiden is the reason why this book is such a terrifying and chilling book to read. Because to the outside world, Aiden appears as though he is the perfect person, the perfect guy, the perfect family man, the perfect neighbor, and lastly, the perfect member of his community and the town within where he lives. Everyone in town knows Aiden as someone who they can always count on to lend a helping hand in a time of a crisis, or just simply in a pinch when someone is in need of some help. Aiden wears many hats that the people in his town know him by, most notably grieving widower and single father to his only child, his daughter Cecilia. Aiden is looked up to and admired in his town as somehow being someone who is getting through this difficult time of his life with such grace and resilience. And while Aiden is a good and doting father to his daughter Cecilia, the rest of what he shows himself to town to be is all but just a facade, a disguise to cover up who he really is. I thought the way the author wrote how easy it was for Aiden to fool everyone in his life and to hide his true and authentic self in the face of others was truly and utterly terrifying and chilling to the bone to read. On the other hand, the woman's story who Aiden has in prison was an incredibly heartbreaking one to read. You saw over the course of the book how this woman was someone out there living her life with everyone else to someone who quickly lost everything that made her her. Aiden took away everything from this woman. He took away her life and her identity without a second thought or any hesitation. Aiden put such fear into this woman, treating her like she was no longer a person with a mind or feelings, making her feel like she didn't matter, telling her that no one cared about her and that everyone had long forgotten about her. She thought that Aiden had fully broken her, but she discovered when the time came to risk it all that he had not, that there was still some part within herself from before, when she was still that person out there in the world living her life with everyone else. This woman is one of the strongest, most determined characters I've ever read about in a book. Her story is one that I will never forget reading. So those are my thoughts on the book. Now for my star rating. The story in this book is one that you get invested in early on, and it's one that keeps your full attention from the very first to the very last page. The kind of story that has you on the edge of your seat and holding your breath with the turn of every page because you literally have no idea what's going to happen next or how the story is going to play out. This is by far one of the best books that I've ever read. With all that being said, my star rating for The Quiet Tenant was that this was definitely more than a 5-star book for me. It was 6 stars. So before I get to my recommendation though, I just want to point out that this book is one that can be very unsettling and disturbing to read because of everything that the story entails. Although, despite the heaviness of the book, this is still very much a book that I would recommend as one worth reading. I would say if you're looking for an incredibly intense, psychological and suspense thriller to read, I would highly recommend The Quiet Tenant by Clemence Michallon. So before I end today's video, I always like to point out whenever I'm reviewing a book on my channel if it's a book that has been or is going to be adapted. The Quiet Tenant is going to be adapted into a limited television series by Blumhouse Television and Charlize Theron's production company, Secret Menu. I don't have any more details than that on the adaptation at the moment, but to say the least, this is very much an adaptation that I'm looking forward to, as this is a book that I absolutely love. That's going to be it for today. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope I helped you discover a new book today along the way as well. And until next time, bye.